Hey, what's going on, everybody? Your boy Crypto Wolf back again, and this time, rather than doing so much analysis or talking and all that good stuff, just going to do a quick little instruction here for anybody who's just getting into technical analysis drawn on the charts or didn't see any of the older videos on this channel. Going to do a little bit of a recap because it's been very important lately, and that is drawing support and resistance levels. So let's get into it. All right, we have over here on the chart the 1 hour Bitcoin, and as you can see, there's all kind of nice happy lines looking like Bob Ross just got done painting all over the screen. So what do we have here? Well, you can see we have this big gold section right here. This is actually a golden pocket from the Fibonacci retracement for the entire bull market. And as you can see, even just from this little section that I got here, fairly important. Speaking of support resistance, had support right there, 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 there. And if you're going by the close of the candle, right there as well. So clearly that is a very important level, specifically support level. And even the bottom down here, which I didn't get quite as perfectly accurate on the bottom of it. Not a big deal, but you know, candle still closed above it. And generally speaking, depending on which exchange you were to go to, if you were to do this, you know, this wick is gonna go to different depths, if you will. But basically, the bottom of this golden pocket, if we do break through that and close below that, is a fairly substantial level to break. If you want an exact number, we're talking 26,500 as far as the top of that golden pocket, 28,650. So just to give you an idea of where we're talking about. But the thing I most want to look at is, you know, this sideways range that we've been in for a little while now. Let's call it going back to May 12th. So 2 weeks. 2 weeks exactly, we have been in this sideways range. And, you know, as a lot of people might think it's boring, we're just stable coining going sideways, this and that, whatever you want to call it. It can actually be fairly good, you know, for scalping, especially once you start to get the gist of, you know, what the top and the bottom bounds are. You know, because if you were more inclined, you could get some nice shorts, long, short, long, short, long. And if nothing else, it's a good thing that you want to keep track of these things, even if you're still just learning, even if you're not trading it, because it helps you to learn how to identify a range or a pattern or whatever it might be. But more importantly, you want to practice putting support resistance levels on there and seeing how it plays out. Like, I've had these drawn on here for the whole 2 weeks now, and I've just kind of been watching to see how it plays out. Are we bouncing off of them? Are we generally holding within those ranges? And for the most part, they've been holding up quite well, especially considering that, you know, had drawn them all the way back here. But the way I came up with these, I hope you can see it. It's the white dotted lines, or the dashed lines going across here. We've got, you know, one up here, one there, and one there. And I guess for the sake of people watching on the phone, I'll bump it up to 2 pixels. So hopefully it's a little bit more visible. But there's a few main ways to come up with the support resistance levels. Now, obviously you have, you know, your fib retracements, which is how we came up with the golden pocket down here. You will also have fixed range price, or fixed range volume profile. And if you haven't seen this in a previous video, I didn't do just a solo video about this with it in the title, but I've done previous support and resistance, I think one video, but I've also touched on it in other ones just randomly here and there. But you know, you pick a bar that you want to go back to, and then you stretch out this other bar. It doesn't really matter if you do high-low or anything, it's just horizontal is the way it's going. And you get the equivalent of, you know, if you'd had the volume bars turned on down on the bottom. Same thing, except you're going in the vertical plane, like the price range up here, if you will. And it's giving you volume bars per price rather than down here. It's giving you volume bars by time period. And as you can see, the further it comes out, the more volume there was at that price level for that particular range of time period that you selected. And so it's interesting to look at this now, you know, after we've had so much price action along these support resistance levels, to really see how it played out. And the biggest thing that jumps out at you, oh, and this big thick yellow line, whatever color it might be on yours, is the point of control, which is, you know, whichever one of these bars it has the most volume, you get that point of control line right there. And in this case, it almost perfectly lines up with that second support resistance level. I'd almost call it the first, because we really haven't even come back up to this one. But that matches up quite nicely. And so what you're looking for on this guy over here, and you can control like how thick these bars are as well if you go into the settings. You know, you could have just real big ones, or you can try to get it down to like real fine detailed ones. I prefer having a little bit more detailed, just it just makes more sense. But so you're looking at how, you know, say you were to draw a line across the top, you're not always necessarily looking for like the middle or the peak of one of these crests, we can call it. What often tends to happen is you'll get, you know, support and resistance at the top of a thick section and at the bottom of a thick section. Now granted, you may get more volume traded within there, but if you're looking to see where, you know, the candles, the wicks, or are going to stop at, it generally tends to be, I bet this is looking like a hot mess. You know, it generally tends to be like, say like this, like right here, right there, right there. And I know it's terrible, I'm using the drawing tool, so it's all squiggly lines, but you get what I'm trying to say. Not necessarily being precise at the moment. But let's say, you know, we've got a big section that kind of ends up here. As you can see, just dragging this across, you know, resistance, 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 resistance. You know, a little resistance here, obviously pushed past a tiny bit, but you know, resistance right there, resistance back here. You get the point. So it's one of those things that you just want to practice with, just play around with it, and you'll start to get the feel of where the best place to put your lines is. Now, the lines that I have on here aren't necessarily built off of this, plus obviously when I drew them, all this price action didn't exist. So, you know, these volume bars are going to be quite different now than they would have been, you know, way back here. So let's get rid of that for the moment. Now, I'm also going to hide Market Cipher A just to make this a little clearer here. But looking to see how these guys played out, you can see, you know, had decent little support, obviously came down below, but for the most part, most of these candles actually closed at or above, except for that one. You know, some support there. And again, don't expect every single time to be precise right on the line. You know, got it right there, right there, right there. And even here, good example. You know, dip back down, but we did hang out for a while right on that line. In fact, you know, came down there. So you can see where once you kind of get the hang of drawing them and where to put them, I mean, it's a little bit more of an art than it is a science. But I mean, I haven't moved these at all since drawing them, and you can see where, I mean, some of it's just freaky how much it played it right on the line. But anyway, so another way to place these. Let's say we did a fib retracement. Oh, son of a bitch. And don't forget, if you are doing fib retracements or other little drawing indicator tools, hold the control key when you're going to place a point and it'll snap to the end of the wick or to the end of the candle, depending on, you know, where you drag the mouse. But let's say we lined it up at the top here. So obviously 0 down here, 1 up here at this little peak, and just for visibility, we'll turn that up a little bit. And you can see once again, right where that blue section starts at the 718 lines up again almost perfectly with this resistance level, support resistance level here. So clearly when you see like confirmation like that, like when you do the fixed volume profile and you do a fib retracement and they come out in like basically the exact same spot, you know, okay, that's a heavy duty support resistance level. You definitely want to mark that one down. And then this yellow line up here is just a run-of-the-mill trend line, just kind of coming across some of the peaks, just as a okay, you know, if we come back up and we break through it, you know, we got something going on. But you know, another little decent level right here. So off of that fib retracement, let's hide this big guy. You can see this yellow section right here, obviously a little smaller than the other sections. This is from, so 618 is technically, you know, part of the fib retracement numbers. 0.65 is not technically a Fibonacci number, but it is what at least I've seen commonly referred to as the golden pocket between that 618 and 650. Or you can, you know, do this as whole numbers or whatever, but I prefer to keep it to the decimals. Just, I don't know, I'm a nerd, sue me. But that's actually, honestly, I'm probably gonna put something in on that right now, because that is a fairly strong level in and of itself. So come up here, drawing tools, rectangle. You just kind of drag it over the top there. Make it match the bottom. And now you got yourself like a support resistance range, if you will. So rather than having one line, you got a range, which again is what we did for this giant golden pocket down here, just on a much larger time scale frame. Yeah. But looking at this, you know, and then after you put something in, especially when you have this much data going through it already, what I usually want to do is just, this is kind of where the art form comes into it a little bit, is take a look and just see like, all right, how much confluence do we have here between the price candles and the actual lines or levels. And just looking at this, I'm like, okay, we got a little going on here, a little going on here. Nice hit right there. Wick down a little bit right there, but I'm almost looking at this one a little bit more. So it's like, okay, we have a little bit of a gap here. Little extension there. A lot of candle closing right there. So again, kind of comes back to potentially moving it down a little bit. You know, that lined up nice. Again, a little bit lower. Also kind of odd that our current price, this thin dotted red line right here, just happens to be, you know, right at these lines right here. So kind of making me biased a little bit, but has some support right there. So it's kind of 50-50. You can almost go either way with this one. If you wanted to stick completely true to the golden pocket itself, you could just leave it. But if you wanted to just tweak it a little bit, you know, maybe bring it down right here, or maybe you bump it up right here. Personally, I'm thinking I'm going to shoot the middle. Let's say, I'll call it right there. Be a dick and kind of just go right in the middle and not go to one of those lines. But again, you're not looking for pinpoint 100% accuracy. You know, you're not watching for the price to come up and as soon as you get to that line, say, oh shit, it's reversing, and just automatically throw an order in. You know, generally speaking, it gives you an area to keep an eye out when you are trading, or even if you're just watching the price, maybe you're just practicing, you're learning, whatever it might be. It gives you a spot to kind of bow low, be on the lookout, and the more and more you get better at it and figuring out what are good places to put support resistance levels as opposed to just throwing lines up everywhere. Like, you don't necessarily want to throw a line up like every single fib retracement level, go in there on the fixed volume profile, start throwing lines on every single one of those levels. You know, come back and look at the price and say, okay, like, you know, every single time you hit a top, throwing another line in, throwing another line in, throwing another line in, throwing another line in. You know, after a while, it's just going to be ridiculous, and you're going to have 100 horizontal lines on your chart, and at that point, you're really not gaining all that much, because, I mean, you know, at that point, it's like you're going to be hitting a level like every half hour. Now, on a smaller time frame, hey, you know, if you're doing quick little scalps, not saying you couldn't do it, but at the same time, yeah, whatever floats your boat, it's your thing to do. But I wouldn't be drawing them, you know, all the way across the chart for days at a time, because it's going to turn into a hot mess. I mean, even just what I have right here, you can tell it starts getting crowded pretty quick. So in the case of this, I like to take what I want from it. You know what they say, take the meat, leave the bones. I like to mark off what I like and then get rid of it. Or you can come over here to your object tree. If you don't know, it's this little layers icon down in the right corner. You can come over here, you can hide stuff. You can create a folder and then group things together in a folder just to make this less complicated. You can rename everything in here. So if you want to give it a specific name, or you want to write, you know, what time frame it was drawn in, if it's something specific. I know one thing that I've been doing, like, I got all the spider lines down in their own folder. Also, if I draw something on like a weekly or a daily time frame, I'll come over here. It's kind of hard to see. There we go, it's a little clearer, but fib retracement, you know, 1 week macro. So that way I know, like, okay, if I want to look at a fib retracement on the macro scale, I can just unhide that, and, you know, as soon as I'm off the higher time frame charts up there, just go back to hiding it, and that's the only time I ever bring it up. What else? But, you know, and obviously a go-to, an easy go-to could be, you know, just if you get a couple swing highs, you could throw a line on there. Or, and this is especially with scalping, it's one thing that I'll often do, and I won't even leave it on there for very long. Let's go down to the 12 minute here. So let's say, okay, say I'm going, I don't know, long right here or something. Maybe you throw a quick one on the swing low and maybe one on the previous high. So that way, as you're watching the price action, you know, you're seeing what it's doing. And if you break that line, you say, okay, well, we broke the previous high. Now we're putting in higher highs. And it kind of gives you, you know, the trend direction a little bit. But then once it starts moving on, or, you know, once I'm not trading that specific area, you know, clear it out, get rid of it, keep the chart clean. And the more you start getting over here in your layers, for one, it can get to the point where it makes your chart slow and kind of glitchy, where it'll be like, especially on your phone. I know, like, I went through and cleaned it out a lot. Matter of fact, the chart that I'm on right now, I had a bunch more stuff just in there because I didn't even look at the layers for quite a while. And stuff was just kind of building up. And when I go to open this chart up on the phone, like, it's hard as hell to scroll it. It still is kind of glitchy, but, you know, you go to scroll it and you click and you move your finger and nothing happens. And then like a second or two later, it moves a tiny bit. So if you have that happening, that's part of the reason that it could be happening. The other part is just, it's kind of a data thing. Like, I could go straight from here to this one over to Binance and it'll scroll perfectly fine on the phone. I mean, none of these are really bad on the computer, but come back over here to Coinbase and that just driving you nuts. So, something to keep in mind. That, and another thing I'll recommend as well, especially if you're, you know, getting into the spider lines, is, oh, I should probably point out. So, here's a spider line. And here's a spider line. These little green dotted lines going, what the hell happened with that? I leave it the dotted, just kind of small, faint. That way you can just leave them up all the time and it's not overbearing. It's not necessarily crowding the hell out of the chart. But let's say if it came over to the daily. There you go. You can see them all here just fanning out from that point. And if you aren't familiar with the spider lines, although I imagine most of you probably are, you probably watch Crypto Face and have come across it. But if you don't know, I think it's like one of the more popular videos on the channel here is how to draw the spider lines. And just as a heads up, you want to do it on the weekly chart. And so this back here being, you know, the previous bull market all-time high. And then this was that like intermittent high before we had the COVID dip. And you're going to be on the weekly chart and you're going to want to snap over here from the top of the body of the candle to the top of the candle body on the highest candle right here. Now, at a certain point, you know, maybe you're wanting more spider lines, you want, you know, more definition over here. I have gone through, tried it, and snapped it to like the top of the wicks, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not, oftentimes it plays out quite the same. Also, you'll get little differences between exchanges, but it's nice to have a chart, whether it's like, you know, Bitstamp or whoever, that the only thing that ever goes on that chart is spider lines. It can be kind of nice that, you know, you're not cutting through all the other bullshit that you have drawn. And if you just want to see plain simple what's up with spider lines, you could pop up that chart. And I believe okay, you can add a text note, I think. I forget, but I thought there might have been a way to rename a chart on there. I forget, but you can add like a little note if you wanted to have it pop up right there. And you can have it just say, you know, Bitcoin spider line chart or whatever. Speaking of Bitstamp. Now, obviously this one can use a few more. It's kind of sparse on this chart. But, you know, go your own way with it. I like doing just little sections of colors. That way, like when you're all the way over here and you're zoomed in, you could be like, okay, well, I need more definition, you know, in between the yellow and the green. Snap a line over here. Come over here and be like, okay, that's where I wanted it. You know, it gives you an idea of where you're aiming for. That's a good song. But, you know, let me know, what do you guys think? Do you have any questions about support resistance levels? Any tips or tricks that you like to use? Obviously, if we want to really dig into the weeds, you know, we could talk about the different GAN tools, I guess. You know, got a big GAN square over here, which I think we already jumped out of. You know, got a GAN square right here. And if you don't know, I got a video on the GAN square. Might not be the best. I'm gonna reapproach it and make another, hopefully better video about how to draw those. It can be tough to find like good information on it, or at least like more recent information on it, but I don't know, what I've been doing has been working out, so fuck them. I'm gonna do it my way. What can I say? But just looking at it, you know, it gives you an idea. So now you're starting to get into a little bit more complex, a little bit more crowded, but it can work out pretty cool, actually. Yeah. You know, because you get these fan lines, which you could draw any of these individually on their own, but you get like GAN fan lines. Then you get these little rings. And of course you got your horizontal verticals, which is just your regular GAN boxes, GAN squares. It's probably about time to readjust this guy. I stretched it out a little extra just to see what would happen, and not really feeling it, so probably time for another one there. But it's been interesting to watch here for the last couple weeks, just, you know, seeing us bouncing around between support resistance levels, just kind of ranging, and then, you know, coming up, seeing how much it's really came into play. It has been quite gratifying, I have to say. It's mildly satisfying. But I guess since we're here, let's take a look real quick. Let me turn this big one back on. So, where are we looking like right now? What am I on? 15 minutes. Had some big RSI splittage going on. So we were definitely getting weakness as we were coming down. Slightly coming back together as we were coming back up. But I don't know what to say. It looks like Junior's first day at the gym. It just does not have the strength. Doesn't have the muscles. You know, even the money flow's been kind of just meh. You know, came back up a little bit. Looks like going sideways again a little bit. RSIs are kind of turning to the downside. Probably have a VWAP cross literally any minute at this point. Bump it up to the 30 minute. What we got here? Similar. VWAP about to cross. Money flow looking the lowest it has been as far as this wave goes. So that's a wee bit ugly. Although, you know, momentum is kind of trending up. Not divergent, but I don't know. There's that, I suppose, if you like. Kind of a double top right here on these guys. You know, RSI's potentially kind of looking up, but the way everything's been going sideways lately, I'm more so calling this a sideways RSI. I have more faith in that assessment. Come up to the 1 hour. Yep. VWAP breaking off to the side as the money flow comes back into the red. It's getting real choppy. I mean, this whole area right here is just a complete goat rodeo. And you can see each time this bar changes colors down here is every time the money flow flip-flops over the zero line, goes from green to red. And once you start getting these little shorter stints, these little ridiculously tiny waves that you can barely see, that's just kind of crap market. I mean, really, I got this thing stretched out more than reality. But let's go up to the 6 hour. Let's see if we got a little something on something higher here. You know, money flow's still going up. Crap. Yeah, you can see what I mean about once you get a lot of these lines on there. What the hell did I do? Oh, and if you want to select multiple items over here, click one, hold shift, go down to whatever ones you want. You can hold and drag. So yeah, little tips and tricks. If you don't know, I keep saying if you don't know, but if you haven't watched it, I got like a series of videos just on TradingView alone. So if there's anything you want to know how to do or what it is or what all these icons and buttons are and all that good stuff, I broke it up, I think, into like 5 videos, like one for each section of the screen over here for TradingView. So go check that out if you want to know more about how to use this. Yeah, looking kind of ugly on the 6 hour. I mean, aside from the money flow coming up, which really hasn't amounted to very much at all. Otherwise, yeah, kind of looking ugly. You know, gradually coming up over here. You know, sideways action on the RSI. Starting to split a little bit finally. So we'll see what that means. It's kind of hard to tell because when you're going sideways and the RSI start to split, you know, it's like, okay, it's getting weaker, but it's getting weaker without direction. So it's like, okay, it's just crappier sideways. Definitely getting this downward trend on the VWAP right there. So mildly discouraging as well. Kind of similar on this one. Money flow on this one's certainly worse. And I know every video I've made lately, we've come and look at the daily money flow, and it continues to go lower and lower. And I was just talking about this in yesterday's video, where we had the potential that this was going to break back down. You know, we got the red dot, and we can clearly see now. In fact, I'll zoom in for you. Clearly see that momentum wave is starting to break down. Now, you know, the leading is going a little bit more down where the lagging is kind of going sideways, but tomato, tomato. But other than that, I think I'm gonna wrap it at that. I think I've rambled enough already. Let me know what you thought, and what's your favorite way to draw support and resistance levels? If you're still watching, let me know. By all means, hey, I always want to learn stuff. So if you got a good one, you better tell me. Just saying. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have a fantastic day. And remember, smile. Even if the world's burning around you, you know what? Crack a joke. Crack a beer. Life's short. Enjoy the ride. Later.